Hello and welcome to the Pots Trowels podcast. I'm Martin Fish, joined as always by Sean and Jill.
Hi.
And later on you'll be hearing from me. I've been out and about talking to the Morpeth Garden Club up in Northumberland.
And I've got a recipe this week. So it's another rhubarb recipe. I'm sorry to make no apologies for that because I love forced rhubarb. So a little blushing rhubarb cream to hear about later.
And I'm checking in from afar, but later on in the podcast you're going to hear some gardening questions. And if you've got a gardening question, drop us an email, info@potsandtrowels.com.
Yeah, and before we hear those questions, we're going to talk to David and Dot, who are from Morpeth Garden Club, who showed me around their lovely new garden. Hello David, hello Dot. Thank you for inviting me to your beautiful garden. So do you want to just describe it to us, please?
Right, we live on the edge of what is called Morpeth Common, so we have a lovely outlook. That's why we bought the house. And the garden, when we bought it, wasn't a neglected plot, but it was a tired garden because a lovely old lady had had the property and just couldn't keep it up anymore. But after 26 years in our last garden, we knew we had to develop something quite quickly, because when you're in your 70s you don't have 26 years to develop the plot.
Well, you might do, you never know.
I'm intending to, but
Yes.
apparently I'm not expected.
Well, and I think what I should let our listeners know is that you are both very keen gardeners. You're very keen gardeners. So, do you want to describe what you've done? Because it's wider than it is deep, isn't it? This garden.
Yes, it was.
It was a problem for us because we'd only ever had a garden that was long away from the house, and now it's across the house. And it was a puzzle, wasn't it, for a long time. And then one day I came in and there was turf being lifted.
I love lifting turf, so I just started cutting shapes in the grass, and it gradually evolved. We didn't plan it out on paper. We just started digging and then started the fun bit of placing plants in it. We put in quite a few shrubs to try. Eventually they will break the space up a bit, but we've got winding paths which the grandchildren love chasing around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what you've done is you've got these sort of like ribbon beds going side to side, nicely curved, some really nice movement in it.
Yeah.
So you've got the path round, so you can see down the garden, but these are just going to break your eye a little bit, aren't they?
That was the idea, yeah. And that you can get round all sides of the bed so that you can access it from all sides.
And
we were really inspired by the beds at Bressingham, but ours is not quite on that scale.
No, but it is that sort of feel to it with the lovely winding paths going between them. And we've sort of wandered down a pond. You've put a nice little pond in this corner, which is very natural.
And we've now got frog spawn in it, which is wonderful. So we were keen to attract the wildlife, and we have birds visiting all the time, which is lovely.
Yeah, it's amazing how a little bit of water in a garden really brings the wildlife in, isn't it?
Yes, I mean we put a couple of water baths in that I'd just made out of some spare concrete when I was putting posts in, and within minutes there were birds in the pot.
So when it came to choosing plants, being plants people, do you both have your favourite plants? Is there any sort of a couple of plants that you would have put in, Dot, and a couple that you would have put in, David?
Yeah, I think your love for plants goes in phases, and at the moment I'm heavily into grasses and David is still heavily into hostas, and the two go together quite nicely actually, so we're quite lucky in that respect.
They do. And the soil here, you are quite a heavy soil, aren't you?
Heavy clay, yes.
So I noticed you've got a couple of big compost heaps there in the background.
Absolutely, yes. We make our own compost.
Yeah, we've got lovely stuff.
Yeah, yes.
We have two bins and fill one while the other one is rotting, and then swap them over, and we've already had lovely stuff to spread onto the plots.
And we've got a lot of leaf mould because we've got a 200-year-old oak tree on the edge of the garden.
That is beautiful,
so
isn't it?
It provides rather a lot of leaves.
Yeah. Well,
something of a nuisance.
Well, but they're good, aren't they, for leaf mould? And I've been watching the birds, lots of little birds. Yes. There's a couple of blue tit, then I can't see for the sun, the one above it, flitting around. And you've got some really choice plants in here. Because we've just been planting our garden at home, and I noticed there's a few things you've got in yours. So I'm doing the right thing, because if you've got them in yours, what about this one here? Hey, look at this.
This is Cornus Cousa, and this came from our last house. We had it there,
an offshoot,
and it was the snow hit it and split it, and I took the half that still looked as if it had a little bit of root on, and I planted it, and this is what came from it.
Right.
So we brought that, which is why it's not got a beautiful shape, but it's a lovely a lovely tree.
I don't think it's too. And has it had bracts on yet?
It has.
Yeah.
Yes.
Last year it was covered.
So that's
It looks like there's some
fastigious golden elm.
Oh right.
And we're a little bit worried how big it is going to get, but we're going to try and keep it narrow so that it's not impinging on the beds.
That was a gift from a friend, wasn't it?
Yes.
And I noticed you've got an Amelanchier, and I love Amelanchier. I've always had them in the garden, and you've got the very upright form.
We've got the other one in the hedge as well. We've got the Lamarckii, is it?
Because they've just got lovely, delicate blossom, haven't they, in autumn colour.
In the autumn is super.
But obelisk it's interesting to see because it grows almost. It's just a vertical tree.
Yes. Again,
which
it doesn't
in a small
impinge.
garden is important. You don't want to have something that's going to become a giant forest tree.
So Naomi, at the moment it's full of daffodils. You can see the hostas there, all that lovely spring verdant growth on the perennials growing. It looks like pulmonaria over there. So it looks very, very, very spring-like. But then you've got the grasses and the hostas, which will all follow on. But we must mention behind us, you've also got a lovely veg plot, a bit of a fruit and veg plot.
It's work in progress.
Yes.
Because vegetables are hard work, especially when you like going away in the summer. And again, problems having a greenhouse. If you're away a lot, you've got to find somebody to water.
Yeah.
But we've got a very, very helpful neighbour. So it's.
And the greenhouse, I noticed. I think you've got some giant cauliflowers growing in there.
We were at a local garden centre, and we saw them growing. They were in their shed, and we thought, I think it was £2 for 8 or something, wasn't it? We thought, well, you've got nothing to lose. And they're looking good. We're hoping the heads will come.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. They look very healthy.
I always think growing cauliflowers is one of the hardest things.
They aren't the easiest brassica to grow. Well, I think, because you haven't been here that long, and I know you've been doing other work in the house, I think what you've done in a short time is beautiful. It really is. It's got that really lovely sort of cottage garden feel in a way that you wander around and all the beautiful plants. And what you've done is maintain that beautiful view of the common there.
Yes.
So it's sort of the borrowed landscape. It looks like you've actually got acres of garden.
Yes.
So we'll definitely solve the house.
Yeah, so thank you for letting me have a look. It's brilliant. I've got some ideas to take home to share with Mrs. Fish.
It is so lovely to walk around people's gardens, isn't it? And not only having a bit of a nosy, sorry Dot and Dave, but it's just nice to pick up ideas, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And they've not been there that long, and they've been doing work in the house, and they have created a lovely garden. They are very much plants people as well, David and Dot. I never saw their old garden, but it sounded lovely. And this is, the fact that it looks out on the common and they've got some lovely plants in there, I think give it a couple more years, it's going to be a spectacular garden.
And of course, the best way to look around people's gardens is through the National Garden Scheme, isn't it? The NGS, because they have their famous yellow book. And not all the gardens are big stately homes and rolling acres. Some of them are ordinary people's gardens, aren't they? They're just a normal size. And often, if it's within a village or a smaller area, then there may be 4 or 5 gardens open at the same time. So it's really nice just to have one. And of course, you get a good piece of cake. You
do.
Always a good piece of cake with an NGS garden.
I think we're going to have to get Sean to open his garden.
Yeah.
The selling point. You've picked up on something, well, anyway, but you're not the only one who's been travelling. I'm out on holiday in North Wales at the minute, so I'm in somebody else's garden having a nosy round. There's a massive, wonderful rhododendron bush just behind me, which I think you can probably see on the connection. And it is a little village, so we have a wander around walking the dog of an evening, and you can just look over the walls and see people's gardens. I'm not sure how nosy you're appearing to the
they'll all be looking.
But we're wondering what on earth you're doing.
Man sitting on the patio with his headphones and a microphone.
I know. I'll have to put a Pots and Trowels t-shirt on or something, but it's not quite t-shirt weather here in North Wales at the moment. It is, however, beautifully sunny, and we're having a great time. We're on the Llyn Peninsula, or I think it'd be Llyn Peninsula, I don't know if I've said that right, which is near Abersoch. And there's some amazing beaches, and it's just brilliant to be somewhere different for a bit, having a looking around and having a nosy and getting out and about.
And have you got Marley the dog with you?
Marley is actually prowling in front of me. I can see him through the patio doors. He wants to be out here, then he comes out, then he wants to go inside, and then when he's inside, he wants to be outside. Hey, he's a very busy dog. He's got a lot on his a lot on his plate. He's got a lot of place to prowl around and patrol. But
it's having to look after all the family on holidays. Big responsibility for a guard dog, isn't it? Taking care of the family.
It is. He's a very scary guard dog. And actually, to be fair, you're not wrong. He's been prowling around quite a lot. And it's hardwood floors in his cottage we're in. And his little nail, click, 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 click. And he is prowling. He's on patrol now. He's just come to my feet now. He's having a good little holiday himself. He's loving the beach.
Well,
which is fantastic.
Lovely.
Anyway, we should probably get back to the garden.
It's all right for some people on holiday, isn't it?
And lovely you've got sunshine, because we're obviously completely the other side of the country to you. We're in Lincolnshire on the east side, and it's very grey. We had heavy rain all night. You know, what are we now? It's first week in April when we should be getting more sunshine, and it's just gloomy and wet. So you've got the best place to be, Sean.
I'll take a photo of this and I'll put it on our Instagram. Yeah. So if you find Pots and Trowels' Instagram, you'll be able to see the probably bleached out because of the sunshine me sitting in front of a laptop with a rhododendron bush in the background. I'll do that.
And the birds are singing.
Anyway,
birds
sorry.
Are singing, aren't they?
I know, yes. And if there's a bit of wind noise and the odd car drives past in the background, then I apologise. There's not a lot I can do about it this week. Anyway, back to the normal. I hear you've got a recipe, Jo.
Well, I have. I was just going to say, because our weather has been a bit grotty, although we have been doing some work in our back garden, so some updates on that later on in the podcast. But while it's been raining, I've been developing some recipes and practicing some ideas, and it's another rhubarb one, and I know I did rhubarb a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, but I couldn't resist doing this one, and this is actually a recipe that I'm going to be demonstrating on stage. We're off to an RHS Harlow car this next weekend, so what's the dates of it, Martin?
Yes, we ought to say, because people don't always listen to this straight away. No. We're going to be working up there on the 12th, 13th and 14th of April, so Friday, Saturday and Sunday, doing talks and demos.
So we've got our potting shed stage, haven't we? And one of the talks that we do is some cookery demos, and Martin talks about the growing of the fruit and veg, and I do some really quick dishes. And this is one that I'm going to do with some more forced rhubarb, a very quick and easy. All the recipes I do on stage have to be quick and they have to be easy, because I have 2 hobs, that's it, and half an hour to do 2 recipes with Martin talking as well. So it's a bit of a nightmare trying to find really quick recipes, but this is a great one. And this was actually sent to me by somebody who was in a garden club, and I asked them for rhubarb recipes, and she sent me this recipe. So this is a great one. So this serves 2 people. You can double it up and have more, obviously, but for about 2 people, so you want about 225 grams of forced rhubarb. Cut those up into 2 centimetre pieces, and then put those into a pan along with about 3 tablespoons of a soft brown sugar and a good sprinkling of cinnamon, so about half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Just cover that, stir it together, cover it, and then very gentle heat until the sugar's dissolved. For about 5 minutes. Then you want to add in the zest of about 1/4 of a lemon, half a small one, 125 mils of milk and 100 mils of creme fraiche. Stir that together and then just bring it to a gentle simmer. Let that cook until the rhubarb's gone really soft and really, really tender. Then get a stick blender, just zap that mixture until it's really, really smooth, and you will end up with this gorgeous blushing rhubarb cream, which is what the recipe's called. And that's it. That's as straightforward as it gets. So just serve that. You can put that into little shot glasses or into a little bowl. And the really nice bit to add in is one of the Italian hard biscuits. So an amaretti, a ratafia, or cantuccini. Cantuccini, have I said that right?
I don't know. I don't speak Italian.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
I've never heard of that in my life.
In the middle. Oh, maybe said the wrong one.
Just say a ginger nut.
Well, to be fair, you probably could use a ginger nut, actually. But it's a hard biscuit. It's one of those ones that you have to dunk. Put that into the middle of your blushing rhubarb cream and let that soften up a little bit before you eat it. And then you just dunk into that. You could drink it or just use a spoon and enjoy that creamy dessert.
And it is delicious, because we've tried it a few times in preparation for next week, and it is very nice. So if you get some forced rhubarb, I'd definitely have a go with it.
Yeah. Anyway, I will put the recipe on our website, so you can have a look at that, and you'll probably put the link on the show notes, Sean.
Yeah, we'll put that on the link in the show notes, absolutely. And obviously, if you do want to get in touch and you've got a question for the team, make sure you drop us an email, info@potsandtrowels.com. So yeah, just send us an email and we'll get it answered on the podcast as best we can. Talking of questions, should we get into some of the questions from the garden group?
Yes, we can, because when I was up at Morpeth, I caught up with some of the members during the meeting. I was up there actually talking about our new garden that we're developing, and quite a few of them had gardening questions that they wanted to ask me.
This is Gabrielle from Morpeth. My husband loves making compost, but he insists on putting annual weeds in it, and I hate having to do all the weeding afterwards. If he wants to put the compost on the beds as mulch. Is there anything that we can actually do with the compost where we can still use it, where I'll be happy to use it, but without having the problem with the weeding?
Good question. Yes, because if you've got seeds on your annual weeds like groundsel and chickweed, then if the compost gets really hot, it would kill the seed. But to make it in a compost bin, it's really difficult for that to happen. It might be warm enough in the middle of the heat, but round the edge it won't be. So you're always going to get seedlings growing. If you put it down as a mulch, you'll get all those other little seedlings growing in that beautiful compost. So if you want to use it, you've almost got to dig it in. So you don't have to dig it in far, because if you think about it, things like chickweed and groundsel, the seeds fall on the surface and will germinate. So if it's only an inch or so deep, that would be enough to stop it. When you turn that soil over again eventually though and bring them to the surface, they will probably germinate. So you're always going to have a problem with it, but initially you can stop them growing by digging it in and burying it.
Okay, so you could put it in at the bottom of a planting hole, for example, to improve the soil when you're planting new plants.
Yes, that'd be perfect. And then they're never going to be dug to the surface, so it would just rot down and feed the roots.
Okay, I'll try that.
Good luck. The other option is to try and get them to get the weeds before they seed, but that's probably not going to be easy.
Chance to be a fine thing.
Okay, good luck with it.
Thank you.
I'm Shirley and from Morpeth. I've got an elderly crabapple tree. It's probably been in the garden since the 1960s. It has a fungus, I think. What should I do to keep it as healthy as I can?
Okay, and this is the fungus that you get on the leaf, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Right, so do they sort of start off healthy, then go sort of dried and shriveled?
Yeah, the leaves come out beautifully, then they get like a brown spot on. It flowers beautifully. Sorry, it flowers then, and then they get the brown spot.
Right. It sounds very much like mildew, one of the powdery mildews they get. And crab apples are prone to it, some of the older varieties especially, so they start all fresh, lovely foliage, beautiful blossom, and then you get this attack, usually sort of probably May, early June time, and then sometimes they'll drop off and you'll get a new flush of foliage later on in the season. I mean, feeding it would help. It's quite an old tree as well, if it's been in since the 60s, so it's going to be 50 plus years old, isn't it? Probably 60 years old almost. So it is quite old. Feeding it in the spring, just a bit of general fertiliser around where the roots are. Right. And even if the roots are, or the base of the tree is exposed, it's not in a lawn, a bit of mulch, a bit of compost, just to give it a bit of a boost. Pruning it, not over mad, but if you thin it out a little bit, that helps with the airflow, and that will often stimulate a bit of new growth as well. But then when you do get the first signs of it, if you don't want it to reoccur, because it does have a weakening effect over many years, you could use if you use fungicides, a rose fungicide, spray it when it's in its first flush of growth before the mildew, the fungus attacks. That will give it a bit of protection. So it doesn't mean you won't get it, but it might lessen the attack.
Okay. It's also near a rose bed. Will that and they do get some sort of fungus?
They do. They get mildews and rusts and things. So similar. It's a different one. This is specific to apples. The rose one is specific to roses, but the same fungicide will treat them both.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good luck with that.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm Richard. I'm from Hepscott, a village just outside Morpeth. My question for you is actually asking for a friend. Is for a very boggy garden, I want to grow some shrubs. What would you recommend for a very boggy situation, shrub-wise?
Okay, and when you say boggy, how boggy are we looking?
With the rain that's been recently, very boggy.
Very boggy, okay. Well, a lot of evergreens will struggle because they don't like to be waterlogged in the winter, so it's going to be mainly deciduous. And I mean, one of the best is dogwoods. Okay. And, you know, I think people often think dogwoods, or you see them in supermarket car parks, but they trim them over and they look horrible. But if you let them grow naturally and cut them back then every year to get that new flush, you'll get amazing stem colours. So, and there's so many lovely ones, you know, with dark red stems, bright red stems, orangey ones. There's one that we're planting at the minute called Annie's Winter Orange, which is absolutely vibrant. So I would certainly always say put some corners in dogwoods, plant them this year, let them establish for a year, then next March cut them down, and then every year after. And some of the willows, there's some quite good dwarf willows that are really, they love it damp. Again, with really colourful stems that will be absolutely fine in that situation.
I'll pass that on to her. The other thing is she gets deer as well. What's the best deer-proof type shrubs?
Oh, that's a good question, because deer will have a nibble at all sorts. I mean, you think roses that are prickly or berberis they won't touch, but they seem to be able to eat round the thorns. I've never had deer in my garden, so I haven't got any personal experience of this, Richard. What I would do is the RHS on their website have a list of plants that are reasonably deer, and they've got one for rabbits as well, resistant. It doesn't mean they won't be, because I think if it depends on if it's really cold and they're hungry, they'll have a nibble at most things. But they've put together a list of plants that are generally not going to be eaten too much by deer. So I've never had, touch wood, never had that problem. So I would revert to the RHS website, and that will give you a list. So sorry, I can't be more help than that, but I don't want to tell you something and then the lady plants it and it gets eaten on the first day.
We've got a lovely Drimys lanceolata in the garden, and she took a fancy to that today. Would that be okay anywhere in her garden, do you think?
I don't think it would like it really wet. So if she's got somewhere that's a little bit more better drainage, she'd be okay. I mean, we had one in our old garden that was in semi-shade. It wasn't in full sun, and it was probably a bit too dry for it, but it still grew fairly well. So it wants good drainage, essentially, because they're fairly tough, but if they're very wet and very cold, there's more chance they're going to succumb. So I would go for brightish light, dapple shade with reasonable drainage. So find somewhere in the garden that's not boggy all the time. But a lovely, interesting shrub.
Very nice shrub.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
I'm Anne from Morpeth. The question I'd like to ask you is, my new garden, it's really a building site really, and it's so thick with clay, bricks, rubbish. How can I improve it? What do you suggest? What can I try?
Right, good question, Anne. So is it a new build?
Yeah.
Right, okay, which is obviously how the builders left it. I think what you've got to try and do is to dig it as deep as you can, not necessarily with a spade, but if you can get a fork and get your fork down quite deep, because it will be compacted, no doubt, with builders walking on it and dumper trucks and various things. So try and get it at least the depth of a spade, ideally about a foot deep, just to loosen it. You don't have to turn it over, just get your fork down and loosen it. Pick out, get the air into it, that will help with the drainage as well, and pick out as much of that rubble that you can. And then you need to get some, either if you can get manure, which is not easy to get nowadays, or some compost, either garden compost, or you can buy in garden centres bags of soil conditioning compost. So not the multi-purpose you would use to pot your plants. The soil condition is quite coarse, and put that on the surface a couple of inches and then work that down, and you want to get it down several inches. And what will happen then, the worms will find it eventually, and that's...
I found some worms.
Oh, that's good. If you've got worms...
Would any horticultural sand improve it at all?
You could, if you could get some, like a fine grit, almost like an alpine grit. Sand, if you put sand on and it's quite fine, it will clog it up almost. Okay. So, but if you've got like a very fine alpine grit, a little bit of that worked in as well. And the more you can work it, and the compost is something you're going to have to do probably on an annual basis. So whenever you get a bit of spare soil, a bit of composting and keep working, and you will get it and the roots will get down.
And plant pots that have you already used, I can use that compost.
Perfect, yeah. So yes, don't throw any away when you empty any pots out. Save that that compost. Any leaves in the autumn, just put them on the surface and let the worms pull them down. It's all about getting the organic matter content there.
Thank you very much, Malcolm.
Good luck with it. Thank you.
All about the organic matter then. And how's the organic matter going where you are?
Lots of it.
Oh, such a lot.
Yes. No, we've been digging a lot of organic matter in. We'd got some of the last of the plant grow compost, but we'd also made loads of compost in the compost bin, so we've completely emptied it. I think I got about 20 odd wheelbarrows out, and that's all gone on the garden now, hasn't it?
But we needed it. I did sympathise with Anne, bless her, with having all that builder's rubble, but we're not a new build, and we've got so much rubble. We've filled about half a skip, haven't we, with rubble. We have salvaged quite a bit, because we did uncover some beautiful old stone slabs, which we've changed the design of the garden slightly, because we wanted to use them. So we've made a little sitting area at the back, which you've put down, haven't you?
Yeah, which has worked really well. It's a lovely old stone that was just buried. But I mean, I think it's a time thing, isn't it? I do apologise if any builders are listening, but lots of builders, I'm not saying all of you, seem to just bury the rubble in the garden, because our house was built in the 1850s, and we have dug up enough bricks to build an outhouse. We really have, and rubble and all sorts that had just been covered over with soil.
I think it might have been the extension.
Well, I think some of it is old bricks on the front. Anyway, it's all gone. We've got rid of it all. And done lots of work and got the soil in good condition, which is what it's all about.
And we've planted some of the plants that have been in storage crates for the last year and a half. So we've actually emptied how many crates?
I think it was about 14 of those big black crates. There's about another 6 or 7 to go yet. So, in fact, that leads nicely on, because one of my jobs for this week is the perfect time to do planting in the garden, because the soil is warming up. It's hard to believe it, but yes, the soil is getting warmer, several degrees warmer, with the bit of sun that we've had, and we've got plenty of moisture there as well. Marley's seeing off intruders. And so if you bought any shrubs in containers, or small trees, or fruit bushes, or perennials from a nursery or garden centre, now is the perfect time to get them in the ground, because their roots will just grow away into that lovely moist soil and establish over the summer months. It's also a good time to do things like your mowing. You know, the grass is growing like mad at the moment, so pick your days when it's dry.
It's still wet though.
Well, pick your days when it's dry, Mrs. Fish, and do it little and often. That is the secret. Don't let it get too long, because it not only takes a lot longer to mow, but it weakens the grass when you cut it short. So what you should always do is little and often with that. If you've got any shrubs that you've been growing for their lovely stem colour, dogwoods and willows, if you haven't already cut them back, now is the time to prune them back really, really hard, and that will encourage that flush of new growth that you'll be able to enjoy next winter. And the other thing I would do is, if you've got borders already established with shrubs in and roses and perennials, give them a feed. I always think feeding at this time of the year is like us having breakfast. We've been asleep for 8 hours, you wake up, you're a bit peckish. Your shrubs have been there in the winter, lying dormant, and as they wake up and want to burst into growth, they need some nutrients to get them going. So just a general fertiliser, just sprinkled on the soil around the base of all your plants. Just work it in with a little fork or a hoe so it mixes into the soil. It will dissolve, take all those lovely nutrients down to the roots, and it will just keep your plants growing nice and strong and healthy. So, yep, quite a lot you can be doing out in the garden over the next week or so. So yeah, and it's all bursting into life, of course.
It is, and the veg plot as well.
Well, the veg plot, I mean, we've been busy in the veg plot. We've been starting to sow the root crops. We've got the onion sets in. We've planted new potatoes. But again, if you haven't done it, still plenty of time to do it. Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, you can get all that veg in there. I shall be doing more sowing in the greenhouse of things like the runner beans that need a bit of protection, and the courgettes and French beans. I'll be doing that in the next week or so. So yeah, no, it's a busy time. Haven't really got time here to sit talking to you two, to be honest.
No, see, Sean doesn't mind. He's got all this to do when he gets back home.
He's on holiday.
It's quite nice to just look at somebody else's garden. And yesterday we were out and about on the beach, and we had a text from the owner of the cottage saying, "I'm really sorry, but the man's going to come and mow the lawn today because he's found a window in between the showers." And I was like, "Yeah, fine, go for it."
Yeah.
She did want to check that Marley hadn't left any presents for him.
Oh, possibly, yes.
But of course, we were on the beach by this point, so hopefully, I think everything was all right. Molly's very, very well trained. He's heard his name there. He's looking over. Just a reminder for you listening at home, you can drop us an email if you want to ask a question to the team. It's info@potsandtrowels.com. I nearly forgot then. I'm D-Mob happy, you see. It's info@potsandtrowels.com. Yeah. And quite a delay on our internet here today, so, recording the podcast. We're doing this obviously remotely. You might hear the birds tweeting. There's huge amounts of birds here. There's wonderful kind of it's a very nice to be close to the wildlife, because I live near the city, so we don't have quite this much bird song when I'm recording at home normally. So anyway, info@potsandtrowels.com. Getting distracted. Drop us an email if you want to ask the team a question.
Marvellous. And that's it. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? And we've seen where Sean is on holiday. Even on holiday, he can't escape us on the Pots and Trowels podcast.
He's dedicated to Pots and Trowels.
Yes. And don't forget, if you are at Harlow Car next week, and come and say hello. Otherwise, we'll speak to you on the podcast again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Watch the videos on YouTube or Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter or X, and subscribe to the podcast and never miss a thing. For more information, go to potsandtrowels.com.